Don't fall in love with me yet. We only recently met. True, I'm in love with you, but you might decide I'm not. Give me a week or two to go absolutely cuckoo. Then when you see your error, then you can flee in terror like everybody else does. I only tell you this cause I'm easy to get rid of, but not if you fall in love. Now that I'm on the...
I am Josh Gross, and I am a multimedia empire. But primarily, I edit the Rearguard, which is Portland State University's alternative monthly newspaper. Theoretically, we are supposed to be leftists, but I like to think that we actually talk about issues more than we do about politics, because I think they're different things. I can't keep my mouth shut, nor can I keep my opinion to myself, and I was in and I'd done it, just kind of generally been in a pain in the ass for a long period of time, and then I had a writing teacher who said, you should really have a newspaper column. And I said, oh, I'd never thought of that before. I thought, they didn't allow people like me in the door. And so I went to work for the student newspaper, and the first thing, of course, that I wanted to do was to jump immediately into writing about the issues around me that I saw as needing change. I mean, I think that a lot of people come to activism through growing up in or seeing things firsthand that they see as problems and seeing as needed to be changed. I was, through some complicated circumstances, incarcerated in the youth penal system in Oregon, and it was saw a lot of injustice and a lot of horrible things happening in there that really just, if people knew about them, I don't think that they'd really be okay with it. Just because the atrocious way prisoners are treated and the atrocious way the abuses of police power and court system callousness and things like that. My experiences in high school were very much that I was undiagnosed learning disorder, and I was kind of shuffled off, and at one point my principal tried to convince me to drop out, and I was like, this isn't right. You're not supposed to try to convince students to drop out of high school. You're supposed to try to keep them here. And they're like, no, we just think you should drop out. We don't really want you around. And so, I mean, when you see things like that, it's hard to really go like, oh, everything's right in the system. This is exactly how it's supposed to work. So, I mean, I think that having had some screwy experiences in high school and just kind of growing up and seeing some weird stuff, it really just filled me with a feeling that something wasn't right, and, someone needed to do something about it. And I looked around and didn't see anyone else doing anything about it, and people were just kind of like, what do I do? And I said, well, it's easy. You just make some noise, get it going. You start talking about it, people will have to respond. So that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I do. I consider what I do to be activism because we live in a democracy, and the thing about democracy is that the essential component for democracy to function properly is a functioning media. And that's because in order for people to make the decisions, aka who they're going to vote for, how their positions on the issues, the media has to do its job to get them that information and to present them, because no one is going to spend their entire life sitting in on Senate meetings, especially when they're, thousands of miles away. So if the media has to get them the proper information and make sure that they're interested enough in what's going on to force them to take part in it and to make good decisions. So I think that when people talk about, quote, the media, it's pointing up at the sky at this giant monolithic thing that doesn't really exist. For one, because there is no single the media. There are many media outlets, and you can't lump them all together and say that they're the same thing. They also have fallen into completely different categories, because what we do as a small, independent, especially college media outlet, is entirely separate from what a large conglomerate television network does, or what a radio news company does. And I think that most of people's saying that is because it's a way of oversimplifying something which they honestly don't understand that much. Things like education, especially funding of higher education, and ensuring that economic problems right now, people are paying a lot for college degrees and then realizing that there aren't really jobs waiting for them afterwards because of the way our economy has been changing shape. We have kind of kept up a campaign of reminding people of the ills of the campus food provider, Sodexo, because of their involvement with the private prison industry, and because of their loss of an $80 million lawsuit for charges of racism, and just kind of generally being no good. And while I can't say that we directly did it, they did just cancel the Sodexo food contract 5 years early, and I'd like to think that we had something to do with that because we helped keep the issue alive. It's something that could have easily just been dropped, and no one could have ever talked about it again, but we decided that this was something important to us, and we wrote about it, and we brought it up, and we made it an issue. I'd really like to see, like the Subways and the Starbucks and the stuff kicked out, and have like things like food providers run by local businesses to keep that money in the community. It's easy to get excited about things, and then when you realize how it can be really frustrating how long it takes to actually see them through. And I think a lot of people get dispirited and they go, oh, fuck it, I'm not going to bother anymore. And I think you gotta stick with it, but you've got to have that energy, but you've got to also, like, within that energy, not let it get you carried away to the point where you have no idea what you're talking about, or you just get your facts mixed up. So, I mean, I don't know, it's an unclear message, I guess, but, I guess make sure you have the skills to pay the bills, because it's really, really hard. I mean, you just feel like the whole world is against you. I remember when I was going door to door for the Democrats in the 2004 campaign, I wanted to quit every single door. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. Every single door, so people would, like, release pit bulls on you. Sometimes people pulled guns, and the people who you did talk to most of the time still were like, yeah, I'm glad you're doing what you do, but I can't help you. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, because people didn't really want to listen. They feel like you're beating things into them. So you have to be really, really stubborn. You have to really believe in what you're doing. And, but honestly, the thing that keeps you going is you suffer and you work through all that, and you just feel like the world hates you, and it's so horrible, and it goes on for a really long time, and then finally you get this tiny little bit of success, and you just suddenly say, hey, wow, I had something to do with that.
Don't fall in love with me yet. We only recently met. True, I'm in love with you, but you might decide I'm not. Give me a week or two to go absolutely cuckoo. Then when you see your error, then you can flee in terror.